Pathetic, embarrassing, disgusting, everything to play for, but came out unprepared, lackluster, and we're going to talk about it. Let's roll. Time for the postgame show.
Zoinks! It is unequivocally the Super Bowl for New York Jet fans.
Field Yates, baby. Field Gosh darn Yates. Let's bring him on the show.
Come on, people. Connor Rogers is joining the show. What's up, Connor? But Trevor Gosh darn Sycamore, baby, for me, personally, my favorite New York Jet of all time.
Wow, it's great to be on. What an intro that was right there.
Paul, nobody does an intro like you, man.
Paul, you give the best intro of literally any podcast that I've ever done.
I'm gonna lose my gosh darn bananas.
Hey, everybody, my name is Paul Ashton Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. Welcome to the postgame show, about 2 hours after every New York Jets game this season. Pathetic. Disgusting. The Jets literally had everything to play for today. If you win, you keep your very faint playoff hopes alive. And of course, as has been reported throughout the week, if you win, you keep the possibility of Aaron Rodgers returning this season alive. Was it crazy? Was it wild? Was it even dumb? Yes, to all of those. But it would have been cool for us as Jet fans to have something to root for in the middle of this horrific season, which was promised to be spectacular, and Aaron Rodgers and everything else. It was supposed to be different. But there's nothing different about what we saw today and what we've seen this season. The Jets today, with their 30-0 loss to the Miami Dolphins, have clinched their 8th straight losing season. We had the random 2015 year, seemingly out of nowhere, 10-6, and that year ended horribly too. And the Jets have had losing season in 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, and now 2023. Jets are 5-9. Best they can do if they win out. That doesn't seem like that's happening. Is 8-9. Another losing season. More records for the Jets, for those counting at home. The Jets are now going playoff-less for the 13th consecutive season. The last time the New York Jets were in the playoffs was during the 2010 season, which was the year 2011, of course, as well. Since then, the Jets have not graced the playoffs. And by the way, that is the longest drought in Jets franchise history. There's a lot of Jet fans of varying ages that listen to our shows and listen to our programs. But this, they say, oh, back in my day, it was worse. There is nothing worse than what the Jets are currently in the middle of right now. 13 straight years without the playoffs. The next closest thing was after the Super Bowl, that little run in the 70s, a little bit of 80s, even though there were spurts and things, where the Jets had, it was somewhere in the ballpark of like 10 years-ish, somewhere in that ballpark of where the Jets didn't go to the playoffs for that run. 13 years now is the longest active drought in Jets. Well, quite frankly, not even active. We'll get to that in a second. But the longest drought in Jets franchise history. That's never happened before. They've never gone, until now, 13 consecutive seasons without going to the playoffs. That has never happened in the Jets' history. New York Titans, New York Jets, call them whatever the hell you want. Doesn't matter. They have the longest active drought in the NFL of not making the playoffs and of all North American sports. North America sports. Jets. Terrible. And just when you come out like this, where you have the crazy half, we're like, whoa, okay, 30 points in a single half. The Jets found something. The light bulb clicked. Something's here for the New York Jets. Oh, Paul, you idiot. I thought we found something. I'm like, oh, yeah, here we go, baby. And everything lined up for the Dolphins. They lost their center, their starting center for the year. Their backup center stunk. Tyreek Hill was out. Whoa, okay. Everything is aligning properly for the New York Jets to get this improbable win. And this game against the Dolphins was, of course, the toughest game remaining on the Jets schedule. They have games against Washington coming up. That team freaking stinks. They got the Browns on a short week. They got a good defense, but Joe Flacco sucks. He threw like 3 picks today. They ended up winning. More on that in a little bit. And then the Patriots, who you've lost to like a million times in a row. Technically, that's 15, which is also the longest active losing streak to a singular opponent in the NFL, is what the Jets have for the Patriots. Again, also more on that later as well. It's just, I've reached the point where we're kind of on this roller coaster, right? The Jets were on a 5-game losing streak. We're like, oh, geez, tank time, baby. Time to tank. And then they win against the Texans. We're like, whoa, up. Wait a second. We're back in. And then they lose like this. You're back out. It's in and out, in and out, in and out. Terrible. So, everybody, welcome to the post-game show. If you are a first-time listener, viewer, you can hit the link. It is pinned to the top of our YouTube channel. That is the link to join the show. You can hop on camera, whether you're on your phone or your computer, and join the Cam 631 Laser hotline. That is the way to join the show, and you can do that for every post-game show. And shout out to my boy, Cam 631 Laser. He's a diehard Jets fan. He's been supporting the show all year. And he makes all kinds of custom items with his custom laser engraving, from license plate frames, motorcycle parts, cars, business cards, pens, keychains, all that fun jazz. Make sure to reach out to him. His email is cam@631laser.com, or you can call him at 631-31laser. He's been supporting the show through wins or losses, which shout out to Cam for that. So, guys, make sure you guys check that out. Feel free to do so. So you guys can hit it. It is the pinned comment on our YouTube channel. If you guys would like to join the show, just put yourself in a relatively quiet space and have your camera on. You'll be in the green room. I could see you, and we could bring you on the show. But the Jets are now officially eliminated from the playoffs, both because of the Texans' crazy win against the Titans, right, skipping the tie. And then Joe Flacco, former Jet great, of course, the Browns beat the Bears. The Bears should have won. They had a Hail Mary in their breadbasket. Darnell Mooney had it in his lap. If they catch that, of course, that would have temporarily kept the Jets' playoff hopes alive. Those are over. But also, the Jets would have the number 5 overall pick right now in the 2024 NFL draft if the Bears catch that pass, which somehow doinked off his lap and flew into a Browns defender's hands. So the Jets, Tankathon update, have the 6th overall pick. With Tankathon, they have the strength of schedule tiebreaker over every team in front of them outside of the Bears. That's why that Bears loss was especially brutal. The Bears were winning 17-7. But the Bears do play the Cardinals next week, and Kyler got hurt during this game, although it's hard to kind of manage that and this at the same time. So the Bears at least have one other win on the schedule, which means the Jets could get inside the top 5. And then, of course, the Commanders themselves, which are one spot ahead of them as well, which could get you inside the top 4. So a lot on the line here for the New York Jets from a tanking perspective. Not a playoff perspective, which obviously I would prefer, but a tanking perspective. The other thing I want to get to, we could talk about this horrible loss and everything else. It's all on the table. Guys, I'll try to get to a lot of your comments in here as well, if you guys don't want to join the show instead. I don't blame you. So today for me is a moment where I said it's time for the Jets to blow up the offensive line. Now, the offensive line hasn't been great all year. I admit that. So, I admit it. However, I think it was just a harsh realization that if Aaron Rodgers is going to come back, he ain't coming back this year. I would be surprised. We'll hear from Aaron, I'm sure, on Tuesday. But if he's going to come back at all, though, like 2024 or anything, well, the Jets got to fix this offensive line or it's not going to matter. That's the fact of the matter. Mekhi Becton got beat like a rented mule. Like an absolute rented mule. Good Lord. On a couple of those plays, it was the Houdini trick. Ha-ha! And then booyah. Zach Wilson didn't have a lot of chances early in that game. He got beat with a rusty pipe. That's what was happening there. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. Grounded Pun, a good buddy of mine on the Twitter sphere. GP joining us here on the show. We got YouTube listeners, Facebook listeners, Twitter. You name it, you got it. I appreciate all the support, guys, for tuning into the show. But, yeah, Yeah, he didn't have any chances back there, which, again, if I'm Aaron Rodgers and I'm on the sideline, I'm seeing that. I'm like, don't think I'm coming back this year. I think not. Because the worst possible thing, like it's already terrible right now, but the worst possible thing that could happen, quite frankly, is the Jets trotting Aaron Rodgers back out there. He gets hurt and you compromise 2024 at all. Why? It's bad and it is what it is. Okay? This season is lost. The playoffs are now gone officially, and it's just a complete and utter dysfunctional mess. Aaron, don't make it worse. We already saw you get injured once. That's enough. We don't need to see it twice. But the great news is with this magical recovery that he's on, is they should activate him this week, Aaron Rodgers, but don't play him. Let him get all the practice reps. That can only be beneficial. And then once we get to the offseason, he will be full go for the offseason and be fully ready for 2024 and allow the Jets to operate. Allow the doctor to operate. Pull up the sleeves, okay? And one of the top missions for this Jets brass, whether new or old, I saw a couple questions about that. We'll get to that. But new or old is, well, fixing the offensive line. And I am wearing the jersey, I understand, of Mekhi Becton. Big ticket. Big ticket got big smacked around in this game. He is a pending free agent. After today's performance, don't want to overreact, but thinking long and hard about a different starting left tackle, if you catch my drift. Dwayne Brown, time to retire, pal. He wasn't even out there, but it's just time to retire. That's a tall task for this Jets team, of course. You got to replace both starting tackles. Left guard Lakin, we'll see with the contract numbers. Rich Cimini on his podcast said there's no more guarantees in his contract, but that may not be counting the restructure on Lakin Tomlinson on the contract. I do believe, let me get the update from Spot Track here. Yeah, there would be a dead cap next season. So it looks like there'd be $10 million plus in dead cap. That was a Joe Douglas cap restructure. So he's probably back. That would be a large dead cap hit. So he's probably your left guard. But left tackle, let's assume gone. Right tackle, let's assume gone. Which, again, the two starters at tackle were Mekhi Becton and Dwayne Brown. Whoop! Both of those chess pieces off the board for a second. Left guard Lakin Tomlinson, he's got a big dead cap hit. Probably back. So plug him in at left guard. Joe Tippmann, okay. He's shown some chutzpah this year. You're at center. Right guard, Elijah Vera Tucker, maybe. I know there's the tackle conversation. I guess it kind of depends how some of these pieces align, what you can do potentially, whether it's in free agency or the draft. But I probably preferred right now with like AVT at right guard. I understand the value of tackle, so that's possible. But right now, I'm fine plugging him at right guard. So here are the answers. You have three right now with the construct of the team. You have three starters on the O-line. That's if AVT is a full health recovery. If not, you only have 2 out of 5. I don't like that math. But the fact of the matter is you have to do serious work. And we're just talking about starters. I haven't even brought up depth yet. Aaron Rodgers, the number one mission for this team. Every draft pick, every asset should be used on the offensive side of the ball. This Jets offense, historically inept. Historically. And the defense has been fine for the most part. Again, they got waxed in this Dolphins game, but every Dolphins drive started in Jets territory. I mean, they were back on their heels immediately from some of the offensive ineptitude. So it's hard to blame the Jets defense based on everything that's transpired this season. But they did get sliced and diced up by Jalen Waddle and some of the speed on the Dolphins offense. And yeah, they really got some stuff going. But yeah, so the offensive line, that is number one mission, number one missive this offseason is to fix that. And can you in a single offseason? Rome wasn't built in a day. I do hope the Jets offensive line can be. Got a couple of months to figure it out for the Jets offensive line. But Mekhi, at this point, see ya, pal. Dwayne Brown, see ya, pal. You're going to have to start fresh. Let's go to Julio Rivera on our YouTube channel. Paul, look where we are. Talking about draft picks again. SMH, Julio. I wish we weren't, but anywho, I digress. So if we end up with the 6th pick and Caleb Williams is sitting there, would you take him? That's what the Jets pick, by the way, right now is the 6th overall pick. Julio, I'm going to be honest. I don't think this scenario will exist. I imagine Caleb will go 1 or 2, 1A, 1B. We'll see. Whoever, whether it's the Bears that take him and send off Justin Fields or they trade it to some other team. I do not believe this option will be on the table. But if it was on the table, I would say this. There is one draft expert who has Jet ties that I trust very highly in the draft evaluation process. That is Connor Rogers. And he believes that if the Jets, and he said this a couple weeks ago, that if the Jets somehow finish with the top 2 pick, which means that obviously they would be on the clock for either Drake May of North Carolina or Caleb Williams of USC, that the Jets have to take, this is Connor Rogers' opinion, that they'd have to take one of those guys. In my opinion, you're all in with Rodgers. And to me, I think the key is conviction. Conviction. You either need to be all in Super Bowl or long-term thinking. So for me, personally, if it was the 6th pick, first off, it would depend who was taken with the top 5 picks then. Was it the Drake May kid and the receivers and the offense tackles and all that? Are any of those guys still on the board? That could weigh it for me. Maybe I trade down a spot and still get one of those guys because, like, to me, offensive line, as I mentioned, Fashanu out of Penn State, Joe Alt, praise to be Alt, okay, Notre Dame, that would be intriguing to me. Marvin Harrison, of course, obviously would be intriguing. But offensive line is my number one priority at this point. I don't want a 4 square peg round hole and the right offensive lineman isn't there and the Jets are reaching. I don't want that, of course. But it would depend who else is on the board in this scenario. But Caleb Williams, from everything I hear, is going to be the second coming of the Messiah. So the Jets would have to think long and hard, quite frankly, because Zach Wilson turned back into a pumpkin. We had his best game ever last week against the Texans. Maybe his worst game ever this game. Which, again, blame him or the offensive line or what have you or everybody. But an interesting question nonetheless. Right now I'm thinking O-line. But, of course, how could you be mad? How could you not be tantalized by Marvin Harrison Jr., I think? But it's an interesting question for sure. Great comment there, pal. Appreciate it. So you guys can, like I said, keep the comments flowing. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, whatever you'd like. Feel free to send those in. Also, the Cam 631 Laser hotline is available. The video link to join our post-game show to react or vent about anything New York Jets related. That is the pinned comment on YouTube. Feel free to utilize that. But I'm going to keep going through some of these comments here. Let's see. Eddie Rodriguez commenting in. Unless they can sign a minimum of 3 starting caliber offensive linemen, they cannot pass on one for a quarterback. Very fair. And I wonder if that's even realistic to sign that many in free agency because, of course, the bidding will be hot and heavy because offensive linemen are scarce. So everyone's going to be interested in them. So the Jets are going to have to really open up the checkbook. So you got to open up the checkbook in the right way for the right piece. Because, again, as some would say, Lakin, they opened up $40 million. And just because you plug money in a hole doesn't necessarily mean you will solve the issues at hand. So to me, again, you got to build inside out. And it's a win-now team right now. Caleb Williams could be a cool thing. And I get it. The Jets do not have a future at quarterback currently on the roster. Trevor Siemian, he ain't coming back. Brett Rippon, come on, he ain't coming back. Aaron Rodgers, of course, he is. And then Zach Wilson, oh boy. Probably trade, I would imagine. And he's injured, so who knows which was an absolute cluster. So he's out because of hydration. Then he's out for a head injury, non-concussion related. Then he's in the concussion protocol for concussion reasons. Then he's out. Like, whoa, what happened there? As I heard several Jet fans say, the Jets can't even get an injury report right. Oh, boy. No idea. Saleh was left pretty speechless after the game trying to explain all that. Odd. Anywho. Go through some of your comments here. Another good point from GVH on our YouTube channel. Don't know if what he wants JD picking another quarterback. He chose James Morgan, Zach Wilson, and traded for Aaron. How many swings does he get? A very fair criticism considering his win-loss record, which, by the way, no bueno. I know Joe Caporoso always tweets out the updated record of Joe Douglas, Robert Saleh. Let me see here. Let me pull up. Let's see. What is the record? I know he tweeted. Here it is. Okay. From our good buddy Joe Caporoso, Badlands. Okay. Here's the updated records. Robert Saleh is now 16-32. a 33% winning percentage. Joe Douglas is 25-55, a 31% winning percentage. And if you don't include the 7-9 Adam Gase year, which was Mike McCagnor's team, remember, Joe Douglas was hired over the summer. He did not have the free agency or draft involved for that team. He would be 18-45 would be his overall record. Now, you can choose to count that or not. Either way, it's bad. I just call it how you see it. But it's a fair point. Should Joe Douglas get the pick of a QB if indeed they circle in those waters? Well, the fact of the matter is, I go back to my original point, conviction. You have to be all in or all out. If you're all in on Douglas, can you say, hey, go get all in pieces, don't take a quarterback? You have to let them, in some sense, do their job. So to start micromanaging and saying, hey, give us a win now piece, but don't take quarterback, don't even think about quarterback, that wouldn't be the Jets doing their jobs in terms of they should evaluate quarterback. They should evaluate all the positions and say, okay, what are we doing here? We don't want to skip on anything crazy or scenarios where you could trade potentially for the pick. So to me, I think you either have to ride it out with him or step out. And there is a compelling argument, and we'll see if I find that comment. I know someone asked if, Paul, is there any way that these guys get fired? Let me see if I can find whoever asked that earlier. See if I could give credit there where it's due. Let's go back to the top here. We got a lot of comments. I appreciate it. Okay, let's keep going here. Who asked that question? Here it is. Yeetus Deletus. Any chance where we are seeing firing? This is an embarrassment on all levels of the franchise. It absolutely is. And I think there's always a chance. When you get embarrassed like this, and now you have 3 games left. So you have the Commanders, who again is a mid-team, your last home game of the year. You have the short week against the Browns. That could get ugly with that defense potentially. And then you have the Patriots, who, an utter embarrassment. If the Jets, who are 5-9 right now, so they are tracking for 5-12 as we currently sit, I don't think you can ever say never. You can ever say never? Yeah. I don't think you can ever say never, Woody Johnson, at the front of this ship. Okay? I don't think you can. But, boy, as we've talked about, as we've talked about, the fact of the matter is this group of Robert Saleh, Joe Douglas, Nathaniel Hackett, they convinced Aaron Rodgers to come here in the first place. So if you at all mess with that recipe, that could upset Aaron Rodgers. And some of you may say, screw Aaron Rodgers. Some of you may say, heed Aaron Rodgers. I don't know. Wherever you stand. But that's got to be part of the conversation, is talk with Aaron Rodgers, because he's the straw that stirs the drink, whether you people like it or not. So is there a chance we start firing? Absolutely there is. This was an embarrassing game, a lack of preparedness, and that's happened quite frankly, bluntly, too damn often as far as I'm concerned. With the Jets. Too often they've come unprepared, lackadaisical, and one of the biggest things to me is, they have no opening drive touchdown this season offensively, and in general, they suck in first quarters. That's on coaching. That's on a lack of preparation. So to put yourself immediately behind the 8 ball on a week-to-week basis, how arrogant is that for the Jets to say, we don't really need the first quarter. All we need is the others. And apparently that worked against the Texans last week, but that doesn't work on a week-to-week basis in terms of consistency. It's arrogant. It's embarrassing. And I'm going to be honest, for the first time, my job as a New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com, as you see on the little title there, is I consume all Jets interviews, press conferences, Saleh, Wilson, everybody, and I just absorb. I absorb information. And then I filter it out and give you guys takes and things of that nature. I heard Saleh today. He seemed like a dead man walking. And that's the first time I think I've ever said that. He just seemed lifeless. Short answers to reasonable questions. Maybe he's just pissed. I don't know. But it was just nothing. Legitimate, blunt questions. Hey, Garrett Wilson didn't have a catch in the third quarter. Thoughts? He's like, credit the defense. No, F that for a minute, folks. F that. Jalen Waddle was doing stuff behind the line of scrimmage to get off a Sauce or DJ Reed and a quick throw over. That's what you do to get your best players involved under any circumstance. I don't give a flying hoot what the defense is. Get Garrett Wilson the ball. There is no excuse, no reason We should be going all these moments without him getting targets. He should be getting looks on a play-to-play basis. This Jets team isn't good enough to go, we can go to other guys. The hell we can. The hell we can. Garrett Wilson needs targets every friggin' game. I'd go 10, 15 targets every game, unquestioned. Unquestioned. But to hear like third quarter, first catch, well, you got to credit the defense. No, that's inept coaching. That's what that is. So, yeah, man, it's on the table for me. I'd be open to it. Matthias saying the same thing. Any chance they fire him? I think so. I think absolutely. Crowd, as you point out, it is currently the longest playoff drought in American professional sports. That is the New York Jets, 13 years active. Disgusting. Ah, boy. Yeah, Waddle was hurt for a bit, as CBW points out. He was hurt at the beginning of the... So he was hot, got hurt, and then back out there and started making plays again. Unbelievable. And when a team is hurt like that, so Tyreek Hill's out, and I get it, the Jets like to do it their way or the highway, right? They don't like shadowing Sauce or doing this or doing that. If I'm the Jets defense, I am doubling Waddle. I am daring you to beat me with checks, notes, Braxton Berrios, Robbie Chosen, Ross, Sun God, whatever the hell his name is now. Beat me with those guys. You ain't beating me with Jalen Waddle. That's what I would say, and I would die on that hill if I'm the Jets defense. And just mano-a-mano, man coverage. And, DJ Reed, Sauce, and Michael Carter II, they've been spectacular. And they deserve all their flowers. But come on, man. Like, make an adjustment. We're in the middle of that game. Okay, Waddle is getting us a little bit here. There's no Tyreek Hill to worry about. Let's give a little extra TLC to Jalen Waddle. And again, force one of these other scrubs to beat us. Frustrating. Woody needs to man up. We're getting a little bit of everything here. Neil Glassman, YouTube. I'm 62 years old. I've been a fan of this team for about 52 of those years. I'm so tired of this. Is it too much to ask to at least be competitive? Especially in a game like this, Neil. That's what really grinds my gears. The Jets had everything to play for to keep their playoff hopes alive. It's do or die. They're basically in play. They were in playoff mode today. Like, oh boy, if we lose, we could be out. And they are, as we found out. The Aaron Rodgers factor. The potential safety of your coach and general manager, like everything's on the line, and to come out like that, a blah effort, unbelievable. So not even competitive against a team that is hurting on their own. Connor Williams injury, Tyreek Hill's out. They're all those secondary. Javon Holland, the guy that had the Hail Mary pick six, he wasn't playing in the game. Xavier Howard was out. They had all kinds of dudes out. There is no excuse for how terrible the Jets looked. It's pathetic. If I'm the Dolphins, I'm like, sweet, we didn't even need Tyreek Hill. Phenomenal. Terrible. Ah, boy. CBW, time for the Jets to jockey for draft position. All right, let's give you the Tankathon update, everybody, as we're going through this thing. Here we go. Let's pull this up on the big board. We'll throw it up here on the screen for our visual viewers here. All right, screen, Tankathon 2024 draft order. All right, so here we go. Carolina wins, so they're 2-12. Technically 3 games ahead of the Jets with 3 games left to go. That's probably unlikely they're going to win 3 in a row. So let's kind of put Carolina alone. They're going to probably have the number 1 pick, and if not, it's going to be a jockeying of position there between Carolina, New England, and Arizona. And Arizona, let me make sure we get the updated scorecard here. They're currently, hang on tight. They're currently getting skull-effed by the San Francisco 49ers, 35-16, heading into the 4th. Yikes. So they're currently getting smacked around. So, okay, the Arizona's going to stay there at the 3-win mark. Then we get to the 4-win team. There's only one 4-win team, and that is Washington, the Commanders, at 4-9. Currently, they're getting boat raced by the LA Rams 20-7, and that is the Jets' next opponent. But this is where it gets interesting, okay? So Chicago, who again won last second, or the Jets would have leapfrogged them, they would have been at 5. But they're not, because Chicago ended up losing that game to Cleveland. The Jets' strength of schedule, which is the number 1 tiebreaker in draft positioning scenarios, have a 5-11 winning percentage. That is the best strength of schedule among any team inside the top 9. So any team inside the top 9 outside of the Chicago Bears, the Jets have the advantage, which means if the Jets are tied with any team not named the Chicago Bears, they will win the tiebreaker and ascend up the draft board. Because the Bears do have a lower strength of schedule at 470, okay? They currently are in front of the Jets. Now, the Bears play the Cardinals next week. I think that's going to be a win for the old Chicago Bears, which means the Jets would leapfrog Chicago. Then they're at 5. Now it's 5-4. Washington's at 4-9. The Jets obviously are at 5-9. If Washington beats the Jets can leapfrog to number 4 in the draft because the Jets' strength of schedule is 5-11 and Washington's strength of schedule is 5-15. So that is where it stands. So if Washington was to beat the Jets could go as high as the number 4 overall pick. And that is most realistically probably their ceiling as it pertains to the draft conversation for the New York Jets. And that could be important for a lot of reasons because we talk about the 2 quarterbacks everyone talks about, Caleb Williams, Drake May. Then you talk about Marvin Harrison Jr. He's pretty good. And then you have 2 offensive tackles in Fashanu and Joe Alt. That seems to be the consensus top 5-ish, and you can kind of debate on who goes where and when they go where. And then there's others, Jaden Daniels, the Heisman Trophy winner, Neighbors, the wide receiver out of LSU. Like, there's a couple other guys, and we'll get deeper into it once we get a little bit deeper into the conversation there. But that's what we're talking about from that perspective as it pertains to it, from the draft positioning conversation for the New York Jets. That's where we're at. We're back in Tankathon, baby. It's a violent world. It's Groundhog's Day. Again, here we are. Here we are. Once again. Good Lord have mercy. Unbelievable. So as CBW says, in one way, it's a huge game against Washington. Yes, the loser of the game, quote unquote, will ascend up the draft board. The winner, which could be perceived as the winner as well. Just depends. Seems like unlikely the Aaron Rodgers thing, although I guess we'll hear later this week. He said he wanted them to be alive, and they're officially not alive. Not even a hint of alive. They have been eliminated from playoff contention, which means maybe Aaron Rodgers officially goes on ice, which means, again, the Jets' options at quarterback are injured Zach Wilson. We'll see what happens there. Trevor Siemian, or Brett Rippon. Yikes. Here we are. Here we are. And the Who says that's why I did not want to win last week because if you just even put it that way, right? So the Jets put themselves, let's call it 4-10. They would be above Washington right now. They'd be sitting in the 4th overall pick right now with a chance potentially to jump into the 2-3 conversation, potentially with however New England, Arizona squares off. So yeah, the Who could have very much been in that conversation from a draft perspective. Yeah. Could be. GVH says play the kids. Now, I'm going to be honest. I don't know how much credit the Jets deserve on this because it was kind of like the nature of the beast. What about Izzy, everybody? Izzy finally getting some reps and unsurprisingly has shown a little pop. Why wouldn't he? He's a rookie. He's a young man. He ends up getting 4 carries for 8 yards. Again, I know it's a very limited sample size. Had 2 catches for 11 yards. He just has some chutzpah, man. There's some speed. There's some wheels there. Let's get the kid involved. I know the coaching staff keeps saying, well, he doesn't pass protect. Well, shoot, the offensive line doesn't pass protect. I mean, for Pete's sake, let's get the kid out there and see what he's got. We're in the evaluation stage, especially now that the playoffs are officially over. We are in the full evaluation mode. That's where the Jets are. So might as well play the young kid, see what you got. Still play the Garrett Wilsons, the Breece Halls, and all that, but let's work some Izzy in there. Let's work some Izzy. Robert says all out on a new offensive line. The opposite, get rid of 77 very slow. Yeah, Mackay was just kind of danced out of sorts. I don't know if he's battling injuries or what. There's been a lot of solid moments this year. He had the injury, missed a game. I think there was a Black Friday game, the first Dolphins game. But boy, it's just it's not looking like it for Becton. And this is a contract year, man. Maybe someone's going to pay him. Again, he's 25 years old. He's a massive freak, got a ton of potential. If he stays healthy, he could do things. But, man, that might be time. That'd be very risky for the Jets to give a long-term, juicy, guaranteed deal to Mekhi Becton, considering everything that's been going on. It'd be very risky. CBW says the Jets need a long-term option at quarterback. Yeah, I just think that you're going to decline the 5th-year option of Zach Wilson in May, if he's still on the team at that point. So it's probably best to trade him somewhere. I'm sure there'd be interest. Why wouldn't there be? If the Jets are able to trade him, they'll save $5.5 million in cap space. If they cut him, they save nothing. So hopefully you could trade him. Rich Cimini believes that there will be interest in Zach Wilson. And then you could get a little bit of cap relief and a late draft pick probably what you're going to get. And then you restart. So you got Aaron. Go get yourself a veteran quarterback. I heard a couple of names mentioned. Ryan Tannehill, Gardner Minshew as potential options. We'll get into more of that during the offseason, of course. And then you draft a kid on day 3. That's probably the plan right now as it pertains to me. You have some kid to develop. You'd want someone developing being in the room with Aaron Rodgers that can only help that young man, whoever that future draft pick is. So that's where I would go at this current point. Although some would argue a quarterback in the first round. But again, I just feel like in a perfect world, if you draft a quarterback early, he doesn't touch the field for 2 years. You're like Will McDonald, who's shown a few pops himself. Like, nice, but they could have used insert offensive lineman or whatnot as a more immediate need. Will McDonald might be a special player in a year or two. I don't know. But shoot, you need things that can help you now. And it would be it'd be an identity crisis to have Aaron Rodgers, Super Bowl, baby, division title, quarterback, draft early, cryogenically frozen for 2 years. That's a hard thing to realize. Again, I enjoy team building in Madden, but I think you just got to make a decision. You got to draw a line in the sand and try to balance both. That's what a general manager is supposed to do. But I'd probably go for, again, an offensive lineman, a receiver that could help. Somewhere in that range is what I'm thinking currently for the New York Jets ahead of the 2024 NFL draft. That is where I'm at there. Joe Alt from Notre Dame. He is a popular pick. That is a Woody pick that he's very excited about. So we will see. Praise to be Alt. He'd be a fun pick. He has already officially entered his name into the 2024 NFL draft. He'd be interesting. We need to know line coach. Yeah, Keith Carter may be a head that rolls. Again, if they run it all back, which is the expectation based on everything we're hearing so far, maybe there's new things tonight. Keith Carter gone and some veterans and some draft, a little bit of everything. Trade even. You just got to fully, that's my take after this game, you just got to fully blow this thing up and bring a bunch of new dudes in because what you have ain't working, plainly. So, you're going to need to do something. Now, it's not all 5, but you're going to need at least 2 starters minimum, maybe more. You at least need your 2 tackles replaced. Well, let's keep going through some of your comments here, and then we'll wrap up the show. Let's see. Yeah. What a terrible, terrible game. Can I imagine Zach Wilson on Bill Parcells' team? John Hepburn, hey, fellers. I absolutely cannot. 3 top 5 picks on quarterbacks since 2009. Stay away from the quarterback. Yeah, Zach Wilson, Mark Sanchez, and Sam Darnold. Although in the grand scheme of things, from a Jets drafting quarterback perspective, I'd have to look at the numbers, but I'm pretty sure from a recent podcast I heard, they were pretty low on taking quarterbacks early in the draft. Like, it seems like a lot from that number you just said, but in a historic perspective, like franchise starts, they're actually very low in that department. But again, I would not dive in those waters personally. Kevin_Chata says, it's embarrassing JD signed Simeon when Cam Newton was available. I don't think Cam Newton would have been the good boy that Simeon was, because like he was, hey, you're signing, but you're a backup. Cam Newton, I think, whether understandably so or not, former league MVP, he wants to compete and start and play. That could have been a rub in the locker room. That could have been an issue. So for some of these guys, you have to have the fine line of getting a guy who's accepting of his role as a backup, but won't cause friction, which is maybe the reason they stayed away from Carson Wentz. You know, that kind of credentials, Zach Wilson struggles, could easily throw some things out of whack. A couple other comments here. Yeah, disaster. Absolutely it is. Yes, it is. Zach definitely getting traded now. Yeah, I do believe. I would be surprised otherwise. Again, there's those fleeting moments where you have to at least put the possibility out there that, oh, maybe he can run it for consecutive games. But history told us that wouldn't happen. And, well, I guess history was right because Zach Wilson had never had really solid back-to-back games, and that is especially the case now. Miguel, whoa, this is a book, so you guys will just see my eye reactions and eyebrows on this one. Paul, the OC Hackett is a killer. He puts Zach back, waiting to be crushed. Zach plays well under play action, field in motion. No decoy, just a sitting duck. Hackett said he does not like moving unless it is serving a purpose. Defense loves Hackett, that's for sure. Yeah, I know Aaron Rodgers does not like motion, but he's Aaron frickin' Rodgers, so he has kind of unique oddities to his own rules. But yeah, it just showed that the Texans game was a fluke. That's what that showed. Terrible. Washington to solidify their draft spot. Again, this one matters. I mean, of course, if they won, it would help the Jets because they'd move up a slot. But personally, again, the real contest that will matter is if Washington beats the Jets next week, then they have the same record. Thus, the strength of schedule tiebreaker comes into play. So we will see if that is indeed the case. Those are dead guys walking too. Like Ron Rivera, his ass is getting fired, honestly. Paul Flans, fire Hackett tomorrow. I do not anticipate that happening, but maybe. Is Rodgers going to dictate who the Jets draft in the first round? Why? Is he going to dictate? Dictate is probably too strong of a word. Like he's the GM and sending in the pick. No, I don't think he dictates it, but his presence affects the pick. Quite frankly, how couldn't it? He's Aaron Rodgers. You've built your entire team around Aaron Rodgers. Brought in Hackett with Rodgers, the players with Rodgers, Cobb, Lazard, Turner, Amos, all these guys. You bring it around him. They're part of the Rodgers culture. Okay. So does he dictate it? Dictate's too strong of a word. But is he involved? Yeah. Yeah. I'd say he's involved. I'd say that pretty strong right now. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, whether you agree or disagree, that's up to, I guess, your own discretion. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder, I suppose. But, yeah, the Jets are, for better or for worse, they are going all in on Rodgers. Buffalo or Miami to the Super Bowl. How lovely. Yeah, obviously, Buffalo is boat racing the Cowboys right now, so that is tough to see. It's 31-3, an absolute brutal beatdown of the Dallas Cowboys in Buffalo right now. So things are looking spicy there. And obviously Miami just took care of business against us. We will see if they are for real either. If Buffalo makes playoffs, which it looks possible that they could get in there. But Miami, we'll see. Miami hasn't won a playoff game in 21 years. So we'll see. CBW, good question. Who's taking Wilson's $5.5 million? Rich Samini suggested that maybe the Jets could eat some of that to facilitate a trade. So if the Chiefs or the Eagles, which are two teams that not he mentioned, but others have mentioned, maybe you eat some of that to facilitate a deal, and then you get a 6th or 7th. But the draft pick's less important. It's about someone taking that money. So we'll see. It's kind of expensive for a backup quarterback and one that has the resume, obviously, that Zach Wilson does. So we will see. We'll see if anyone takes it, but you can always be surprised. Hell, the Panthers took Sam Darnold, so possible. Okay, let's go here. A couple other comments. O-line, yeah, the O-line has been terrible. Absolutely god-awful. Jared B says they got to fire someone today. I'd be interested to see who it is. Maybe it's Keith Carter, but it just feels almost, what's the word I'm looking for? That feels almost scapegoaty. And there Jared Beat actually says that Carter would be the scapegoat and deservedly so. For sure, perhaps. Esden is wearing the Bum Becton jersey. Yeah. That I am. I picked that out this morning. So I guess blame me for what happened. That's fair. Marvin Harrison, I would take too. A little tweet coming in. Marvin Harrison, I'd take Marvin Harrison. Mm-hmm. Absolutely would. Jekuma, do you think Garrett Wilson was arguing with Rodgers at the play call? Yeah, if you were watching the broadcast, Garrett Wilson and Rodgers had some animated words, but no, I don't think so. Because it's not like Rodgers making the play call, so arguing, I don't think is the right word. Conversating, like, what the fine? Who was that? Now, if he was, that's kind of weird because he knows cameras are everywhere. So that's probably a better conversation for private. But maybe Garrett's just emotional as he was throughout the game. Like, what the hell? Like, again, the no target thing doesn't make anything to me. So not arguing about it because it's not like Rodgers making the calls either. But maybe passionately discussing it, yeah. That's certainly on the table. That's for sure. Yeah, Jets so mid, very mid. Yes, that's fair. Tomlinson needs to put his resume in at ShopRite. Jesus, you guys are brutal. Fire everyone. Damn, we are here. We are in the thick of it. And it's Christmas this week, for Pete's sake, but I don't blame any of you for all your passion. Yeah, it's a great question. Where is Dwayne Brown, Roger Saffold? We'll start with Saffold. Like, they signed this guy, former Pro Bowler. He's been a Pro Bowler the last 2 years, right? He's on the Jets practice squad. And the initial reason he didn't come in was, football shape. Okay, he just came off the couch. That makes sense. How long is he not going to be in football shape? There was like the trade deadline. That's like 2 months ago. What the hell? So yeah, Saffold is bizarre. Like, that signing now just looks weird. No other explanation. Dwayne Brown, he came back and it was like, oh, maybe he'll start. Maybe he'll start. Now he's just been like a swing tackle. Where are they? It's a great question, especially with how bad it's been. Williams says Steelers for Zach. Could be. Pickett looks like trash. Mason Rudolph is dumpy. Mr. Trubisky sucks. Yeah, that could be an outside possibility, sure. It depends on kind of what the leadership is there. I love Mike Tomlin, but we'll see if he's still there. Jet Goomba with a healthy reminder. Make sure you guys pound the like button on YouTube. We're trying to get to 6,000 subscribers before the end of the year, so we got about 2 weeks to do so. So, guys, if you could do it yourself, if you're not already on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/boygreen25, make sure you subscribe. We have daily live shows every morning at 7:30, plus the post-game shows and other fun stuff. We had Thomas Morstead on last week. We're going to have a few players on during the offseason, so hope you guys can enjoy the content, so feel free. Hit that thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. We're trying to get to 6,000 subs. Can you help me do it? Tell a friend, baby. Please do. Milk thumbs, as Dakota says. I don't do it like Green Bean, but you get the point. Trade back for a haul. This is a deep draft. Easier said than done, Yeetus Deletus, but it's possible. Depending on how high you get, maybe there's a way to get there. I'd prefer maybe the blue chip prospect of depending on where you are, of course. But I'm open to a trade down. They don't have a second round pick, so you could kind of recoup that. And Jerry asked, was that jersey on a discount rack? I wish. I bought it at the height of its powers. So, yeah. No discount for Paul. Becton will be working at Amazon. Wow, you guys are terrible. Get Harbaugh. Again, there's always that connection. Woody Johnson and Harbaugh. Maybe. I'd imagine you'd be more intrigued by the Chargers job, but hey, what do you say? Charles, what do you do if the choice is Bowers or Alt? I go Alt. But, yeah, between those two, it's Alt. But if it's Bowers or, I don't even know, whoever, like, right, it's a non-positional, not like a not top offensive tackle or something. Or no Marvin, no quarterbacks. Probably Bowers in that scenario. But with Alt still on the board, I go Alt. But we'll get more into draft, obviously, pretty quickly here, it looks like. Vinny says, I watched solid JD God tonight. I don't blame you guys. I don't blame you guys for the passion. I don't blame you guys for the anger. Because I'm disgusted by this. Embarrassing, pathetic. Starts off our Christmas week terribly here. And here we are. But we will be back tomorrow morning. Italy Jet will be joining me for a Monday episode. We got Rivka Board this week, a Jets X Factor, Joe Caporoso. We will dive into Washington with Lake Lewis, Gunny Gumby, Ty Butler. We got plenty of people that'll be joining us on the program this week. So make sure you guys check it out. That is the live daily show, 7:30 every day in the morning. You guys can also check that out after the fact. Like I said, make sure you guys like the video, hit subscribe, show the support. My theme after this is, well, it's tank time, number one. And number two, you got to blow up the Jets offensive line this offseason. At least there's 2 new starters, maybe 3. You just got to blow this thing up, get it ready for Aaron Rodgers. Pack it in, baby. That's what we got to do. But we will ride through with you guys through every game through the rest of the season and get you guys all the juicy intel that you need. Thanks, everybody, for tuning into the show. Appreciate all the support, and we'll see you next time.